All right, so welcome to my channel, the channel where I post special interest stuff and stuff that I impulsively want to make that's low effort. I am, in fact, a 21 Pilots fan, as you can tell from the few videos I've posted here about 21 Pilots. I had some fun around the Scaled and Icy era, speculating on different things related to a couple songs. Mostly, I made that one Bounce Man theory that got shouted out by JL Anderson Music, which is great because I'm a big fan of his content, his 21 Pilots related content in general. But anyway, it's beside the point. Today, I'd like to kind of word vomit, improv my way through a video telling you about some thoughts I have on Clancy. More specifically, I have an idea of what the general story of just Clancy, just the album itself, not tied to any lore or any Dima stuff, but just how it relates to the cycle of mental health struggle. I have a theory on that. I'm calling it Clancy set theory. The idea being that there is essentially in the album, if you take out the songs that we know are lore based, primarily the one at the end and the one at the beginning, you take Overcompensate and you take Paladin Straight out of the picture. I think that there's a story being told about the mental health struggle, especially since everyone's already pointed out that there are many themes about cycles and a lot of lyrical themes talking about backsliding, just regression, and just the idea of getting better, but then faltering and returning back to a former state that you thought you escaped. I'm not going to go into too many details. I'm not going to pull up a bunch of lyrics in this video. It's more of just my general theory. Anyone in the comments or anyone watching this can take this theory and run with it, maybe flesh it out better. Here's kind of how I'm viewing the album right now. So you take out Overcompensate, you take out Paladin Straight. Those are very clearly talking about Clancy and Nico. Those are lore based. For this theory, take them out. We're talking about just Next Semester to Oldie Station. We're talking about just those songs today. Because when I first heard Clancy, like most people, even as somebody who did not think we were getting Trench 2, I never thought that the album was advertised that way. Even I thought when I was hearing Clancy for the first time, there's really not a lot going on in terms of lore. And I've been following the band for a long time. It seems to me that Tyler is somebody who really likes to talk about his mental state right now. He's made it clear, I believe he talked in the live stream, he believes the fans have a right to know how he's doing, what's going on in his brain right now, which I find interesting considering a lot of the songs on the album are about how paralyzed he can feel, I guess, in expressing himself. Both in The Craving, there's some a little audio clip from Jenna at the beginning talking about how there's still things that she doesn't know about him, and there's a lyric in there about how the more he thinks, the less he says. Navigating seems to be about wasting time as he's kind of, going through his mind, I guess assessing where he's at mentally. It seems that the album is kind of a reflection of maybe choice paralysis that he's feeling as an artist right now. I'm rambling a lot, but this is kind of just my preliminary thoughts before I describe what set theory is. I think that that's where Tyler was coming from when writing this album. I know he said multiple times that every time he makes an album, it's kind of a reaction to the previous one that he made. So, kind of thinking back to songs like Pet Cheetah, which are about there's a precedent set for him writing about the writing process. And I feel like that's touched upon a little bit in some of these songs. So, what is set theory? I got this idea kind of after watching the Navigating video and coming to the same conclusion that everyone did the moment that the song ended. Not talking about the My Blood thing, I'm not talking about anything visually happening. I'm talking about that little snippet, that little guitar snippet right at the end, where everyone just kind of like, that played at the beginning of Next Semester's music video. What's going on with that? Especially considering that it's a song on the later half of the album. And Next Semester is literally the second song on Clancy. And there's a lot of people talking about the overall theme of cycles. Not just in Clancy, but in the last 3 albums. But we thought, like, break the cycle in half. That should be relevant, from Shy Away. That lyric should be relevant to Clancy. But how? I haven't been reading into what people have been saying, other people's theories. So this is all just going on in my head. But the way I see this album is, it's a linear narrative that either repeats or breaks through at the end. So Next Semester is kind of like coming off of the high energy of Overcompensate. You're feeling good. You're literally, like, if you're going off the music video's logic, Tyler's like at a concert where he should feel, the most alive or the most confident. But instead, trauma response. You got PTSD hitting you at like the worst time. And you're just sent back to, something in the past that really just like affected your life. In this case, you could talk more literally about what happened to Tyler that he's referencing in the song, but we're talking more metaphorical, that the point of Next Semester being just taking that moment in your life and trying to do what you can to face it head on each time that it comes to you. So that's what that's about. I find it interesting that immediately following Next Semester we get Backslide, and that's about, I kind of interpret it as like immediate next reaction to after an experience, like having those panic attacks, where in Backslide you're worried about regressing to that point again. And personally, I don't believe that literally every single song in sequence ties back into this narrative that I'm talking about. Because then what would you do with songs like Lavish? Midwest Indigo doesn't really fit too much. But the idea of like starting from Next Semester, you start to get songs. Every other song is kind of roughly about a different aspect of dealing with your mental health, different stages of addressing it, whether it's the fear of regression, like backsliding, or it's the paralysis of not really knowing what's going on in your head, like I said with Navigating, or the craving. Even Vignette, is kind of about like the fight to, take control of your own body when you use things like different chemicals or different substances to fight off mental health struggles. That's just one read of the song. That's not like the read of the song. But yeah, no, it seems pretty clear that like a majority of the album is kind of covering mental health in different ways. That's nothing new for the band, but it seems to be really emphasizing a cycle. So why do I think that Clancy set theory is viable? It really comes down to, at the end of Navigating, that section about if you really want to know what I'm thinking, kind of feels like everybody leaves. Just the way that it's delivered, it kind of feels like a breakthrough is happening at that point. It feels like for once in the album, Tyler is speaking very directly about something that's been bothering him, something that has been really, I feel like, influencing a lot of the lyrics on a lot of these songs. And that happens right at the end there. And it's followed by, I believe, Snapback is the next track, immediately after that. So the way I see it, Snapback is following that part in Navigating, where I feel like Tyler's being, the most honest with himself, exposing what's really eating at him. We get Snapback, which is about accepting that you have regressed. It's kind of the denial of Vignette is gone. And now you're left with, here's what we're facing, here's the deep dark pit that I find myself in, literally like in the music video, like looking in a mirror at like your past self and like literally talking to him, not hiding anymore. Snapback feels like that honest confrontation, but the way that it ends feels like an acceptance moment. And I find it interesting that it's followed immediately by Oldie Station, which is about a more warm acceptance. Like you've accepted that you've snapped back. Now you are inspired to take the people closest to you that inspire you to push on through, and really learning from them. Oldie Station feels like growth, like acceptance and growth. So what am I getting at here? I think that there's a story that starts at next semester, right? And goes all the way to navigating, cut out the songs like Lavish and Midwest Indigo that aren't that relevant. And at navigating, that's emblematic, symbolically representing when somebody who's struggling with mental health either acknowledges their state and accepts it and confronts it, or if they decide to go back to denial and kind of resetting, going back to that part of the beginning. There's two different ways that kind of happens in your life. And at the end of navigating, you're either going into snapback where you really have regressed, or you've postponed it. That's for another day, and you go back to next semester. And just those two different paths, essentially. So there's the linear path where from next semester to navigating, it advances to the conclusion, the conclusion of true growth and healing, that is snapback and Oldie Station. Or at the end of navigating, that guitar snippet that plays at the beginning of next semester, that's how I interpret it. Essentially, it's either a story of making it to that point and either mentally going back to where you were at, mentally in next semester, or advancing to a place where you can grow and heal. I really hope this is making any amount of sense to anybody else. I kind of feel like I should just have a diagram ready. In fact, I'm just gonna draw it out in case it doesn't make any sense at all. So I'll be right back with that. So essentially, here is how I see Clancy set theory visualized. So next semester, we start our story with the inciting trauma response. It's really coming up out of nowhere in an unexpected setting. It could happen to you anywhere. In the case of the music video, it happened at a concert. Backslide is, that fear, that inciting fear of returning to that past self, that past trauma, that you're going to backslide into that's going to be a part of you forever, potentially. Routines in the night, since I didn't bring that up, I thought I'd include it here. So, very vaguely just being kept up at night by your memories, just the recesses of where that trauma response lives in your brain, the halls in your head, and how that keeps you up at night. Vignette, very generally, I'm saying it's about coping and denial, completely denying what's going on here. That's why I find that it comes towards the middle of the album. Craving and navigating are kind of being lumped together for the sake of this theory, talking very generally about paralysis and not knowing what to do, or in the case of craving, not knowing what to say, or really just having your thoughts just kind of stop you in your tracks. And so from that point, I find that this is the moment of confrontation. At the end of navigating, it's this moment where Tyler is saying how he's feeling. It's finally coming out of him. It seems to be this very emotional moment. But whether or not it's cathartic and he gets to move past the confrontation and do anything with it, in the sake of the album, I do think that happens. But in the sake of people's mental health, I think that the end of navigating... I think that the story that's being told here is that sometimes you don't. It just gets kicked down the road, Panic attacks, PTSD, trauma responses, that is something that can come back to you at any given moment. So there are times where we're able to acknowledge that we have snapped back, maybe that does happen to us, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe if we don't snap back and we end up being okay, we go back to where we were next semester. But I find that the true growth happens when you are honest with yourself. You have hit that point again that you were afraid of in backslide. And in Oldie Station, it's really a song about accepting that part of yourself, growing with it, and pushing on through. That's generally, in this diagram, the Clancy set theory that I'm going with. That this is the narrative of Clancy that's being told. It's either a cycle happening here or moving forward, you know? And I think that that's what makes Oldie Station really beautiful to me, because Push On Through is a very, you know, I wouldn't call it tropey, but, you know, you've heard that type of phrase said a million times in a million different places. One of my personal favorite examples would be in Meet the Robinsons, you know, keep moving forward. I feel like that film has got a great message that, yeah, you really could apply that to this narrative, honestly. But that's what makes Oldie Station so impactful to me, is I interpreted it through this lens. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if it weren't for the end of Navigating, that little sound bite playing at the beginning of next semester. So when you take out Overcompensate, you know, a clear lore song, and you take out Paladin Straight, a clear lore song, I feel like this is the story that Tyler was really trying to say with Clancy, you know? And I understand, trust me, I understand that people have been interpreting Tyler's story almost exclusively through the lens of Dima, that world. But I find it quite telling that at the beginning of Overcompensate, that Tyler makes a point to repeat the line from Bandito. I created this world to feel some control, destroy it if I want. I feel like Overcompensate is him breaking down that wall of the metaphor. Trench and Scaled and Icy is clearly set in this world of Dima. In fact, re-listening to Scaled and Icy, that complaint that people have about Clancy, where it doesn't have nearly enough lyrics directly addressing lore, Scaled and Icy does a really good job of actually accomplishing both things that Tyler wants, where he's clearly singing about something more direct in the real world with himself, but also the lyrics really do address the lore in a lot of songs in Scaled and Icy. So I find that interesting. You know, why would Clancy come out and then immediately not continue that if Trench and Scaled and Icy set that out? I found that Overcompensate was trying to show the audience, we are back in Trench, but I'm breaking down that wall. The metaphor is going to be a lot less metaphorical. It's going to be more direct, the things that we're talking about now. We're not going to use nearly as much in regards to Nico or Dima, the city. We're not going to reference those things, because the story that I've been telling up to this point, you know, that Tyler's been telling up to that point, that it was a metaphor about things in our real world, you know, stuff that he's been talking about since Vessel, you know, mental health stuff. We're going back to that point. I feel like Clancy is trying to, almost in a way, explain what the purpose that these metaphors served up to this point. Because why name the album Clancy if it's not going to be tied in? It is still tied in. Clancy is Tyler. He made that very clear in Overcompensate. So kind of breaking down that wall, and the rest of the album being not so much about the lore, but kind of addressing what the whole point of the lore was for. You know, the lore was serving the purpose of telling this story of mental health struggles, of these cycles, of the places that this trauma can put you in. You know, maybe you can interpret it as being trapped in the cycle is like being trapped in Dima, because, I mean, Tyler's been writing in these songs for the Banditos, the clique, the fans, that he knows, the few, the proud, and the emotional. I find that the repetition of FPE throughout this entire last three albums is really to drive home the point I'm trying to make, that this has all been serving the purpose of addressing these mental health concerns in a narrative fashion, you know, as opposed to just like doing what he was doing on Vessel and Blurry Face. You know, he wasn't just going to do for another three albums more of the same. As I said at the beginning of this video, Tyler doesn't want to do that. So this narrative, I know we all enjoyed the world building of Trench. I know we all enjoyed that, and I know we wanted Clancy to kind of take us back into the world of Trench, but I think Tyler did something clever and showed that the world of Trench was supposed to serve a purpose. We weren't just going there for no reason. Whether you want to see it through the lens of Clancy set theory, like I've spelled out today, is up to you. That's just kind of my interpretation of the album. I know I've made this video in such a messy way, but hopefully you get something out of it. This is the same type of ramble or info dump that I would give to, you know, people in my life that care to listen to me. So hopefully you got something out of it at all. But hey, if you interpret the story of Clancy in a completely different way, if you think all that I'm saying is bogus, please correct me. I would love to hear in the comments what y'all think of the album, whether you're disappointed by certain things or whether you thought that Tyler was being pretty clever. I went from being not disappointed, but like a little surprised to really seeing what Tyler was going for with this album. I really love to do that whenever a new 21 Pilots album comes out, you know, just really see what the point of it all was. Ever since Trench, you know, Trench set that precedent. And Scaled and Icy reset my expectations for how he approaches songwriting. I have respect for Scaled and Icy, even if I do think it's one of their weaker albums. But in retrospect, I think that Tyler actually did a really good job with Scaled and Icy. And then Clancy, you know, we didn't get 3 albums telling this narrative in like the exact same way. We got 3 albums that told this whole overarching story in very different ways, you know, handling it in very different ways. And then Clancy, I think, is about confrontation, acceptance, and growth, or what happens when you can't do that. All right. Hopefully this video was of value to you in any sort of way. If it wasn't, I understand, because I made this very rambly. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I've been axed today, and we'll see what the Paladin Straight music video does, because I'm very excited to see whether this whole double album thing holds any weight, or if it really is just the song teases the music video, like a fight in the music video. That's what I'm placing my bets on, though I wouldn't say no to an EP. Just saying, Tyler, who is clearly not watching this. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day or night. And also, Routines in the Night is an amazing song.